Dr. Nurani, how do you convince parents to take that help? Same question like what I asked to Dr. Kalra on the women's side, taking it forward to the parents of the kids. कि बॉस प्रॉब्लम तो आप पे है, आप करो कुछ, rather than बच्चे को तो ले आए हो, अच्छी बात है, but can't you do something about yourself?
Right. Krishna, actually, there are two approaches to counseling a patient and the child, because if a child is having a neurodevelopmental disorder, for example, autism, you will not be telling a parent that this is your problem, because it has to do with the brain development of the child in itself. But if you have a child who is socially withdrawn, or who is anxious, or who is having some panic attacks or something like that, then you go to the parent and you understand the history, that what kind of a social structure they are providing to the child at their home. The first thing is that most of the times you'll see the patients coming to you as a couple, but when you give them those psychological batteries to fill, they have a lot of discord. One parent will be accepting the things and the other parent will not be, and that happens in front of you. So there comes your role as a professional to make them understand. You know that there are stages of that being unaware, what Ma'am was just mentioning, that we need to make them aware. What I have seen lately in our clinics is that most of the people know about the problems now, because there is a good access to mental health services, and in urban cities, not in the rural areas. But once they get to know of it, they start I call it as information abuse, because they start reading so much about it that they stop thinking, and they are so afraid of the thing. For example, this autism, why it's coming again and again, because there has been a huge increase in the number of children that we see in our clinics. Once you use the word autism for a parent, and they are absolutely blocked, they can't think anything after that. So there are steps like being unaware of the thing. Second is the denial, and third is the resistance, that they'll be like, okay, I'm depressed, but I don't want to go on medications and psychotherapies. I'll be able to manage it on my own. Then after that comes that flackiness. I know that if I exercise and if I take care of my child and I will give him good support, अब हम घर पे लड़ाई नहीं करेंगे, अब हम abusive relationship में नहीं रहेंगे, मुझे लगता है ये ठीक हो जाएगा. And finally, it comes to the acceptance level. Oh my God, I am having depression, or my child is having depression, or he is having learning disorder. So we accept it. This is going to be a lifelong disorder. To do an intervention, we need to understand these levels, where your client or a patient or a parent is. Because unless and until you are not aware which stage they are at, you will not be able to counsel them. Now, the first step, how do you, there is a good question about how do you destigmatize these things, isn't it? I'll give you an example that when a parent comes to us at the age of 2.5 years of age, if a child is not speaking and we start evaluating the child for a neurodevelopmental disorder, we tell them that the child is not able to communicate. Why are you here? Because the first step is to let them speak. Most of the places, they have already visited some other places, and they are like that before we speak, there has been a diagnosis that has been thrown to us, or they have just labeled our child as that he is autistic. The first step is to listen. That the name aptly mentions it. This is the most crucial and important phase of any psychotherapeutic intervention, that you need to listen to a person. Second is that you need to show support, isn't it? Support is like misconceptions about autism, that they will be lifelong like that. Yes, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It is technically a lifelong disorder, but if you work on them early and intervene early, they can be fully functional. That is what we have seen in hundreds of children who are visiting us. I believe in something we call it like be sensitive of timing and place. We are always emotionally sensitive while we are talking to a parent or a patient, but we are not physically sensitive, isn't it? Where, if you are in a clinic and you are having some other clients there, because there is a huge rush in the clinics, you might not be finding a space to talk to a parent alone. Physical sensitivity as well as emotional sensitivity is of crucial importance to gain the confidence and to gain the trust of a parent, so that they understand, yes, he is on the same side as we are. One more thing is that if you are having a conflict, if a parent is saying no, there is no problem, and you know that there is a problem, you cannot confront them just like that, because then you have lost it. The second stage is what I call my parents, and that's true, that to a mother and a father and me, we are on one side of the table and our child is on the other side. When you work as a unit, definitely then psychotherapeutic interventions or neurodevelopmental interventions do magic to the kids. So coming back and winding it up is like that it should not be a conversation of this type, that there are three people and you are asking a parent that, oh, okay, tell me, how do you feel? And tell me, what do you think you are going through? They know what they are going through. Their problem is this only, that they are not able to put it in words and tell you how do they feel. There has been a child who has been asked that there is a 6-year-old child who has been depressed, who has been diagnosed with depression, and he has been asked, how do you feel? How do you expect a child at the age of 6 years explain things, who is socially withdrawn, who is having a learning disorder, who doesn't know why this thing is happening with me? So showing support and being sensitive to timing and place, involving family. Most of the children who don't reach us 0 to 5 years is the best age of intervention for a child to get over the communication problems, learning problems, and social things or emotional instabilities. They don't reach to us. Why? Because the first contact is a pediatrician, Krishna, for all of the children, isn't it?
Yes.
And if a pediatrician is sensitized, and if there is a query by a parent at 1 year and 6 months of age that my child is not speaking meaningfully, this becomes the responsibility of that treating pediatrician to mark it as a red flag sign and refer or counsel their parent at least that please watch out for any developmental disorder. And coming back to this concept of this family as a unit and all, what I personally believe is that it is single individual at a time, isn't it? One person who is suffering and who is going through the problem, make him the target or make him the priority number one. Start communicating with that person. Passive interventions are family interventions, wherein definitely family has a big role, and family has to creep in, but you cannot leave a severely depressed individual and start calling family to take care of him. Do active interventions with an individual first, and once you will see that there is a definitive change in the person, family automatically comes in. When the child at the age of 3 years, after 6 months of intervention, starts speaking dadu to dadu and mama to mama, they're like, yeah, it's working. Show some results to them. And about what Dr. Preeti just mentioned, that we have a unit of family counseling similarly for children, because grandparents usually, why do they deny problems? Is not they don't know about it, is mostly they are afraid of it. Just break this myth of being afraid of developmental disorders or psychological problems, because they feel that it's a long-term thing and it's not going to be fine. It can be taken care of if early interventions are given to these children and young adolescents.
I think that's pretty comprehensive, Dr. Noorani. And